This is page 41 in module 4. So suppose these are the probabilities for the symbols on the spinner. So the probability of the spinner landing on the smiley face would be 7 over 20. On the sun would be 2 over 5. On a star would be 1 over 4. Okay, so if you spin the spinner 40 times, so you're doing the experiment. So let's say you're doing the experiment 40 times. You're spinning it 40 times. Predict the number. So predict means you're making an educated guess on a number of times the spinner will land on each symbol. So we know that the probability of the spinner landing on a smiley face is 7 over 20. So all you gotta do is just make a proportion. Okay, so if you remember what a proportion was, it's when the two fractions are set equal to each other. Okay, so we have 7 over 20 is equal to something x over 40. Because we don't know how many number of times the spinner would land yet, so we're going to put it as an x. So this is going to be like this. We know that if it's a proportion, to solve a proportion, we would have to cross multiply. So we would just do 20 times x, which is 20x. 7 times 40 is 280. So it's 280 is equal to 20 times x. To isolate the x, to get x by itself, you would just have to divide by 20 both sides. Okay, so you would just get 280 divided by 20, like this, divide by 20, divide by 20. You get x is equal to 14. So let's say you spin the spinner 40 times, then the probability of your spinner landing on a smiley face would be 14 times out of 40. Let's do the same thing for the sun. 2 over 5 is equal to x over 40. All you need to do now is just simplify or cross multiply, or you can just do 5 times 8 would be 40, so 8 times 2 is equal to 16. Okay, so it's going to be 80 is equal to 5x, you divide by 5 both sides, x is equal to 16. Same thing for the star, 1 over 4 is equal to x over 40. Okay, we know that 4 times 10 is 40, so 1 times 10 is 10. So x is equal to 10. Okay, so since b is the same thing, I just gave you guys the answers here. So if the spinner is 100 times, so all you just need to do is replace this 40 with 100. So take this same probability for each of them, and you set it equal to the x number of the spinner landing on that symbol over 100. You would get 35, 40, and 25. Okay. And now, how did you predict the number of times a spinner would land on each symbol for the given number of times a spinner would be spun? So we set up a proportion using the probabilities for each symbol as one ratio, and then set up a ratio with the given number of spins in the denominator. So this is just explained in words of what we just did. So we have this as a ratio, okay, and this is another ratio by putting this, the number of the spinner being spun, as a denominator, and then you solve the proportion. Okay, and do you think you would land on this symbol exactly the number of times you calculated in parts A and B if you spin the spinner? Why and why not? Well, the actual number of times a spinner would land on a symbol is random, right? This is just a it's just an educated guess. It's just a prediction. Okay, the prediction gives a close estimate of how many times you could expect the spinner to land on the symbol. That does not mean that when you actually spin the spinner 40 times and 100 times, you're not gonna land on the smiley face 35 times. You're not gonna land on the sun exactly 40 times. It's just a prediction that it could, it's like 40 number of times could happen. We could expect these numbers to come up, okay, but not exactly.